While the world laughs at his sitcom legacy, Jerry Seinfeld has been quietly building one of the most insane car collections on the planet. It's a secretive empire of rare, air-cooled legends from Porsche with a $100 million price tag, and almost nobody is talking about it. So buckle up, because today we're going deep inside his collection. The first and foremost masterpiece in his collection is a 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder. Now, if you want to understand why Jerry Seinfeld's collection is genuinely historic and not just expensive, you start here. The 550 Spyder is arguably the most iconic racing Porsche ever built, weighing in at just 550 kilograms, powered by a mid-mounted 4-cam engine producing around 110 horsepower. This car was an absolute giant killer on the racing circuit in the 1950s. It beat Ferraris, it beat Maseratis, it beat cars with twice the engine displacement. Porsche called it the giant killer themselves, and they weren't being modest about it. The 550 Spyder is also, of course, the car that James Dean was driving when he died in 1955, a fact that gave the model a dark, legendary mystique that has never quite faded. Seinfeld's example is meticulously restored, and it represents the very DNA of everything Porsche would become. This isn't just a car in Jerry's collection, it's the founding document, it's the original manuscript, and having it sets the tone for everything that follows. But if the 550 Spyder is the masterpiece in Porsche's history, what came next was the chapter that changed everything, and Jerry has that one too. The 356 Speedster is the car that made Porsche a brand instead of just a race team. Designed specifically for the American market at the request of Porsche's US importer Max Hoffman, the Speedster was stripped down, low-slung and viscerally pure. A tiny windscreen that barely qualified as a windscreen, and a driving experience so raw and connected that people who've driven one describe it the way others describe one of the best experiences. Seinfeld has spoken openly about the 356 being one of his personal favourites in the entire collection, and it's not hard to see why. The Speedster is Porsche in its most honest form, just engineering and passion fused together into something that looks as alive sitting still as it does at full throttle. His example, finished in a gorgeous silver with a red interior, is considered one of the finest surviving Speedsters in the world. Now, from the purity of the Speedster, Porsche went racing again, and what they created next became one of the most revered competition cars in automotive history. The next car in Jerry's list is a Porsche RS60 Spyder, which is a bigger, louder machine on the track. The RS60 is the successor to the legendary 550 Spyder, and if anything, it's even rarer and more significant. Porsche built these cars specifically to compete in the World Sports Car Championship, and they did exactly that, winning races across Europe and America with a reliability and consistency that terrified far larger manufacturers. The RS60 features a more developed version of the 4-cam engine, improved aerodynamics, and handling that was decades ahead of its time. Fewer than a handful of authentic RS60s exist in private hands today. This is a car that belongs in a museum, and the comedian from Queens has it parked next to his other toys. The RS60 is proof that Jerry's collection isn't about status symbols or investment vehicles. He's hunting specific cars with specific histories because he genuinely deeply understands what they represent. And after conquering the racetracks of the early 60s, Seinfeld owned a Porsche that made the whole world stop and stare. Jerry's Porsche 911 Carrera RS 2.7 is a razor-sharp icon that turned a simple 911 into a legend with a ducktail and a racing soul. The car that Porsche enthusiasts argue about more than any other, the 1973 911 Carrera RS 2.7, is widely considered the greatest 911 ever built, which, given that the 911 is widely considered one of the greatest cars ever built, makes this a layered compliment of almost incomprehensible magnitude. Porsche built the RS 2.7 to homologate it for racing, which meant that they had to produce a road-going version. The result was a lightweight, ferocious, duck-tailed masterpiece with a 2.7-litre flat-six engine producing 210 horsepower in a car that weighed practically nothing. Seinfeld's RS 2.7, finished in Grand Prix white with the iconic Carrera script lettering along the side, is considered a perfect example. Now hold on, we're only halfway through Jerry's mind-blowing Porsche collection, so stay tuned to us to know about upcoming Porsche models in his garage. Meanwhile, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content on your watch list. While the RS 2.7 defined an era, Jerry literally pushed boundaries with a new iconic Porsche on his list. The Porsche 91710 is a twin-turbo legend that once rewrote racing history and still looks like it's ready to break speed limits. The Porsche 917 is the car that won Le Mans in 1970 and 1971 and completely broke Porsche's competitors in the process. It was so fast, so dominant that racing authorities literally changed the rules specifically to limit it. The 91710 variant was built for the Can-Am Racing Series in North America and featured a turbocharged flat 12 engine producing somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 horsepower. 1,000 horsepower in 1973! In a car designed before the advent of modern aerodynamics, traction control, or any of the safety systems we take for granted today. Driving the 91710 at full throttle was widely described by professional racing drivers as one of the most terrifying experiences possible on four wheels. The 91710 isn't a car you put on a pedestal. It's a car that demands to be understood at speed, and Seinfeld understands it. Now, from the insanity of the 917, Jerry surprises his fans with a masterpiece many car enthusiasts want to have, and it's none other than a Porsche 959. In a garage filled with legends, Jerry Seinfeld keeps one true game changer, the 1989 Porsche 959, a car ahead of its era. The 959 was Porsche's moonshot, built in the late 1980s as a technological showcase for what the company could achieve when given unlimited resources and told to build the best car possible. Simply, the 959 featured four-wheel drive, twin-turbocharged flat-six power, electronically controlled suspension, and a body made from advanced composite materials. It was faster than almost anything on the road when it was released. It won the Paris-Dakar Rally. It was so advanced that the United States initially refused to allow it to be imported. A bureaucratic nightmare that led to a famous situation where several wealthy Americans, including Bill Gates and Ralph Lauren, had their 959s impounded by US Customs for years. Seinfeld navigated the important process successfully, and his 959 sits in his collection as a monument to Porsche's engineering ambition. There are fewer than 300 examples in existence. It is, without any exaggeration, a technological artifact as much as it is a car. The 959 proved that Porsche could outthink and out-engineer anyone. But the number 7 on the list is a 911 variant so desirable that it becomes one of the most wanted collector cars. Jerry's 964 Generation 911 represents a significant evolution of the classic formula, more refined and more capable. The Turbo 3.6 version takes that drama and amplifies it to theatrical levels. The turbocharged 3.6-litre flat 6 produces 360 horsepower with a power delivery so sudden and so brutal that the automotive press famously warned drivers about it for years. The turbo lag on these cars wasn't lag, it was a delayed ambush. You'd press the throttle and nothing would happen. And then, half a second later, everything would happen simultaneously. Seinfeld's example is immaculate. He's not just drawn to the 964 Turbo because it's valuable, he's drawn to it because it demands your complete attention. In an interview, Seinfeld once described driving turbocharged 911s as the most honest conversation you can have with the machine. And not just that, the last one on our list is so pure and so celebrated that Seinfeld reportedly called it his favourite modern Porsche of all time. The final Porsche in Jerry's garage is a 993 GT2, which feels dangerous to own, turning the final air-cooled era into a high-stakes legend. The 993 is the last air-cooled 911. When Porsche switched to water cooling with the 996 generation in 1998, the air-cooled era that had defined the brand since 1963 came to an end. The 993 GT2 is the most extreme version of the final air-cooled generation. Rear-wheel drive only, no all-wheel drive as a safety net, massive turbochargers bolted to a 3.6-litre engine producing 430 horsepower, and bodywork so wide and aggressive it looks angry sitting in traffic. The GT2 designation means this car was homologated directly from racing, with no concessions made to comfort or accessibility. It's not a car that forgives mistakes. It's not a car that coddles its driver. It's the last great air-cooled statement from Stuttgart, and it says everything loudly without apology. For collectors who understand Porsche history, the 993 GT2 is the final word in an era that lasted 35 years. Seinfeld's example is one of the most perfectly preserved GT2s known to exist, and the air-cooled community treats it with a kind of reverence usually reserved for religious relics. And there you have it, a glimpse into Jerry Seinfeld's unmatched garage collection. From the legendary 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS 2.7 to his 1998 Porsche 993 GT2 to the genius of the 1989 Porsche 959, every corner of his garage tells a story of speed, style and obsession. So which Porsche model from this list surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments down below. Meanwhile, don't forget to hit like and subscribe because our next video is about Steven Spielberg's watch collection. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. See you there.